Joining us now is retired CIA Operations Officer and Senior Vice President of Strategic Risk and Intelligence at Continental Strategy, Rick de la Torre. Rick de la Torre, thank you for joining us on Power Hour. Let's start with the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And the US is awaiting a proposal from Russian President Vladimir Putin that may lead to a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. Secretary Marco Rubio says that he does think Putin will cut a deal.
We can all agree on. There is no military solution to this crisis.
Right.
It will have to end in a negotiated settlement. And the fundamental challenge we have in Ukraine is this. Russia wants what they do not currently have and are not entitled to, and Ukraine wants what they cannot regain militarily. And that's been the crux of the challenge.
What's your assessment of where things are at the moment? Do you think there is enough evidence that Putin is willing to bring this war to an end?
I think the jury's still out on that one, really. I think what we witnessed in the past couple of days is really that Trump did something that other administrations had not done, and that is he didn't seek permission from NATO or the EU or the UN. He just picked up the phone, gave a telephone call to Putin, and had that kind of conversation that we generally want from leaders. This is what peace through strength looks like when two leaders having a real conversation, not performative posturing, not endless summits where nothing gets done. Trump is doing what Biden never did or could. He's asserting U.S. leadership and testing whether peace is actually on the table. Now, he's not naive about Putin. Putin, he's also not willing to drag America through another endless war, though, just to satisfy defense contractors or NATO bureaucrats. If Putin's serious, we'll see Trump get some results, and if not, Putin will face increased pressure from the U.S. in the form of serious sanctions.
We've also heard from Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky. He's accused Russia of trying to buy time to continue the war in Ukraine. He says that Russia is putting forward unrealistic conditions and must face tough consequences. But Russia maintains it is willing to participate in negotiations. What do you make of Zelensky's comments?
I think he's playing the media and the news correctly, as he should be, right? He's calling Putin's bluff. He's saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm ready to negotiate. Come along, Putin. Let's go with it." And sadly, the more Putin drags this out, the worse it does look for him in the eyes of others. They are confirming a lot of the biases that those in Europe and many here in the United States have.
Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has revealed that Pope Leo had confirmed during a phone call with her his willingness to host in the Vatican the next round of negotiations to try and bring the Russia and Ukraine war to an end. What's your response to this?
Well, look, I think that's fine, as long as it's not just for show. This administration, the United States, Trump, supports diplomacy, but only if it leads somewhere, right? If Pope Leo wants peace, well, that's great, but peace without pressure is just performance, right? If Trump's team shows up, it'll be with leverage, not platitudes. So no more empty declarations, no more moral grandstanding. Real diplomacy means consequences for bad actors and results for the people that are paying the bills. The Vatican can certainly host the table, but Trump's team needs to bring the muscle that's required to make something stick at these peace talks.
I want to talk to you about Joe Biden. You've written about his cancer diagnosis and you say that stage 4 doesn't just sneak up on a sitting president surrounded by round-the-clock care, daily briefings and the most comprehensive medical infrastructure on the planet. Either they knew and they hid it or they were too incompetent to even notice. And after years of watching Biden stumble, mumble and disappear from the public eye, the "we didn't know" excuse doesn't pass the laugh test. So let's stop pretending that Joe Biden was ever truly in charge. So that is the real question. Who was in charge? And Rick, was it his staff? What do you think?
Well, I know his presidency was simply theater. He was a figurehead, the comforting symbol for a party that didn't want leadership. It wanted control. The real decisions came from the back rooms, the activists, handlers, unelected bureaucrats, and the media allies who exist to clean up his messes. Every gaffe was brushed off, right? Every moment of confusion that we witnessed was downplayed. Every bad decision, from Afghanistan to inflation, all those were just spun by the press corps that had already stopped asking the real questions and just became part of the PR machine. So Biden wasn't leading the country; he was reading a teleprompter written by the people who actually were. And the American people saw through it as we went into into the election, and that's one of the reasons why Democrats did so poorly in the past election. Joe Biden was a cardboard presidency. Someone else wrote the script, and he just read it.
Yeah, and we saw that time and time again, yet we're still finding out more about this cover-up. It's been revealed that millions of dollars were spent on a fake town hall, and Biden's performance was actually so bad that nothing could be used from it. Listen to this.
But Joe Biden, at this point, this is the spring of 2024, Joe Biden's town hall, which was closed to press, was so bad that campaign officials determined that it was not usable for a campaign commercial. So they took 90 minutes, 2 hours out of the president's day. They filmed an entire town hall, and they determined that it was not usable. Now, some people say this was because Joe Biden was incoherent. He could not really articulate his thoughts in a pithy or even semi-normal way. Some people just said, like, the lighting was bad. That was sort of the 2 points of view. But the point is, it shows how what the campaign status was in the spring of 2024 when they were trying to deal with a candidate that wasn't a decline.
Wait, someone told you the lighting was bad?
It really just highlights how many people were in on this cover-up.
Yeah, the lighting was bad. Well, let me put it this way. When a former president cancels a national television town hall with less than 24 hours notice, it's not because of scheduling conflicts or bad lighting. It's because his inner circle knows what the rest of us already knew, that Biden's no longer capable of handling unscripted pressure, not even in a controlled environment like an apologetic and supportive CNN stage. And what's the reason that they could give you? Well, he was sick, or he wasn't feeling well. Really, yeah, I'm not so sure, right? We're told that he's the same guy who supposedly ran the country during COVID without a scratch, and suddenly he can't sit for an hour worth of questions. So this wasn't about a cold or the lighting or whatever. This was about control. His team pulled the plug because they couldn't risk him going off script again, right? Because this had been continuing on for a couple of years. And now we've got the book Original Sin, written by one of the CNN anchors and authors with Axios, which is starting to quote unquote leak what we all saw, what we already knew. Some of the same folks, like in this case, Jake Tapper, he was the one that was making excuses for Joe Biden during those years, and now that it's just I guess more acceptable to come clean with some of these things, or maybe I don't pretend to know the man, but maybe his conscience got a little bit better of him, and he's decided to try to correct his script and his take for a number of years on what was obvious to everyone.
It's also been revealed that top US health officials delayed warning the public for months about heart-related risks linked to the mRNA COVID-19 vaccines, according to a scathing interim report from Senator Ron Johnson's office. So the New York Post reports today that Biden officials knew about the potential risks and actually took steps to downplay them. The report claims that federal health agencies had been alerted to large reports of myocarditis in young people who received the Pfizer vaccine as early as February 2021, but didn't update warning labels until late June. Sadly, this doesn't surprise me. Can I get your reaction to this?
It didn't surprise me at all either. I witnessed, I went through that. I received, At the time when I was employed by the CIA at that time, I received my 2 shots in January of 2021. I had my doubts, but at that time I still believed in the services and in the folks that were telling me that I should take this shot. I regret that. I regret that to today. I remember at the time I had someone, a subordinate of mine, a healthy 22, 23-year-old young man, peak physical fitness, just worked out all the time, just no health issues whatsoever. And within 2 weeks, developed myocarditis. When he went and visited the doctors laughed in his face and they said, "That's impossible. This vaccine's safe. There's nothing to do with that." And then lo and behold, we find out now that 1 in every 5,000 recipients of this vaccine, we're at risk of developing myocarditis. So the Biden officials, they knew this. They knew about the myocarditis risks from the COVID vaccines, and they chose to hide it. And our new FDA secretary or director, I guess, no, excuse me, commissioner for FDA, Marty McCarty, he tried to issue a warning label about the heart inflammation in young men, and was blocked, not debated. It was blocked. So this isn't science. This is politics using science as a shield. The government forced healthy teenagers, soldiers, college students to take a shot they didn't need and covered up the risks in the process. Now, if this had happened under any other administration, for example, if this had happened under Trump, the media would be calling for Nuremberg-style hearings, I guarantee you. But because it's Biden's crew, everyone's silent. So what happened to informed consent? What happened to transparency? Instead of warning parents, they silenced doctors. And instead of adjusting policy, they enforced mandates with no exit ramp. And that's not public health. That's government malpractice.
Rick De La Torre, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Really appreciate you making the time. Rick De La Torre, retired CIA Operations Officer and Senior Vice President of Strategic Risk and Intelligence at Continental Strategy. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.